guys, welcome back to ESO Daily. I'm your host, Mr. Craven. So I'm back on the PTS, just did a video, and I'm thinking to myself, I never completely went over this, and I guess it's time. I want to go back to PvP, but I really do have to do this for people who don't understand how diminishing returns affects critical values and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So basically what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to play with crit and damage on each hit and show you guys what you're seeing. So I'm going in the character sheet, and you're going to see my weapon crit at 70%, which is ridiculous because I'm using the Thief Mundus, and then I'm using a crit set like, I don't know, like 2 throw, right? All right. So it's 70% crit, right? I'm going to come over here. I'm going to throw my twin slashes. You're going to see my crit for 3,382, right? I'm just going to keep doing it. All right. Now, when I open up the metrics, if it will show it. All right. There it is. 3,382. But I'm actually critting for more than the set. I'm critting actually 88.2% of the time. Right? But it's 3,382. All right. Now, I'm going to get rid of it, and we're going to go with the shadow. What's that going to do? It's going to drop our crit, but increase our critical damage. Seems pretty simple. So we're going to go over 3,382. If I'm psychic. You guys think I'm psychic? Maybe. Let's find out. 3,006. So we went from 3,003 to 3,006 because we're using shadow, right? Kind of interesting. Now this is kind of another thing I want to show you guys while I'm on here, right? Okay, so when I go back in the character sheet, the shadow's giving me a critical value increase of 12%, right? So I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to show you guys something. We're going to actually drop precise strikes down, right? We're just going to get rid of it altogether. Not going to do anything crazy. Just drop this down to 0. I'll hit again, okay? All right. Now, I want to go ahead. Going to hit. Oh, wrong ability. 3,382. You guys noticed it? Did you catch it? What happened? 3,382. Well, watch. Let's do it again. This is where I get to shine. I used to work with these type of numbers. All right. Okay. Now we're going to put it back in. It's going back up to 12, right? Now we're going to go back to the thief. $3,382. Why? Can anybody tell me? All right, let me explain it. Champion point. This is an indifferent curve, right? So I used to work in financing, and I worked with diminishing returns and indifferent variables a lot. A lot. Like, a lot. And this is an indifferent curve because it covers the difference of the shadow. So no matter if I take the thief or increase the critical value, it doesn't increase the base damage. But what I'm able to do is make the indifferent variable to cover the shadow, the missing variable. Pretty simple, right? So given the fact that I have the shadow's value here in precise strikes, what can I do to increase my critical damage further? Well, I could take the shadow, or better yet, I could take the warrior. Now, why is this important? Well, it's simple. It increases my base damage, thus increasing my critical damage. 3-6. Okay, right? So we went to 3-6. Now, I'll go back to the shadow. Now, that's the difference too. You're going to see it also my weapon damage. So my weapon damage is up to 2584. Now what you're going to see is the crit damage go up, but guess what happens to the base value? It drops. So 3,633, but look how significant my base damage drops. 2,088. We'll do it again.
Hello. Hello.
1 second.
Dad,
Wait, his eyes. My daughter is like literally behind me. Okay, so let me do that again. So we're gonna take the warrior again. 2,088 and 3,613, 13, I believe it was. All right. Now look at my base damage. And notice something? My crit damage. It's marginal. So that's the big deal, guys. That's kind of what I'm pointing out here. I'm kind of illustrating here because no matter how much I stack my crit, right? My base damage and my critical damage increase isn't contributed by the thief. It becomes less effective the more I stack into it. Now, if I want to go ahead, I can actually go back into my champion points, and I can even get a further increase to my champion points at a reduced on my base value. So I can go ahead and hit this. My base value is 2233, but 3618. 2233, 3618. Okay, so sorry about this. Let me go ahead here. If it stops turning red. Okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to lower the base damage, right? Right? About that. It should give me another almost, yeah, we're fine. We'll take it to that. So 1% from mighty and 2% increase to piercing. Now you're seeing the drop to base and increase to the crit. But if I take the thief again, go back up with the 70%, it's still going to drop. Okay. Now we get a round number with the drop. Now I can also even further make an entire burst build if I wanted to, dropping my entire base damage and stacking my critical value. So keep that in mind, guys. So my critical value is at 70%, right? And I'm hitting for 3,400 crit for 273 base. 2,073 base.
Yes.
So, once again, these guys, sorry. So, once this stops turning red, I will go ahead and show this, and we'll finish this up. So I'm going to drop this down. Let's put it around 6. And we're going to stack this up. Probably in the 20s. Okay. Looks good. I don't think that's going to cover. No, it won't. So. Now 3,400 was what we're dealing. In 2002 something. Now look. 3,411. See that? It only went up by 11 points. No matter how much I stacked in. But look, 1983. Right? And then you can get a curve to a curve by increasing the base damage further and reducing it. So let's say I drop this down to about 18%. Trying to match 3,400. Should be giving me about close to 10.
I accidentally
right?
pressed the wrong card. I didn't know that grass was card zone.
Now I don't know if this is going to be exactly, but we'll find out. 3432. Now isn't that weird? Look, I got more critical damage by reducing my crit damage into my piercing. Why? Because my base damage went up. Right? That's the whole deal. That's a diminishing return on critical values. So we see the diminishing rates, how it applies. So if anybody tells you, like, have 80% crit, it's actually dealing you less damage. Yes, you're going to crit more frequently. This is true. But you're going to crit for shit. Think about that. You're going to crit for shit. Right? At a certain point, it becomes less productive. So I even drop it maybe even a little further and increase the base damage. So let's say we go around 16. I don't think it's going to let me do that high. Now we're at 3416 with increased base. And that's that's what you're trying to look for, guys. You're trying to find the happy medium, right? That's what you're trying to do. So once again, there is diminishing returns in critical values, right? And that's why a lot of people will tell you to take the warrior, but here's the deal. So I'm wearing Spriggans, right? And I have points into piercing, right? It's there, right? But guess what? I'm only dealing 3,416, right? My base damage is indicated at 2,058. Now when I go into the tooltip, right? I'm losing 300 because of the penetrating values. So would that make up the difference for the other effects? Well, possibly. But if I go ahead and I take the lever, increasing my critical, I mean not my critical, my penetration, and drop my crit value, now I'm dealing a shitload more damage because my penetrating value is there. Okay? Once again, guys, there's no BIS, and that's one thing I wanted to show you in the beginning with the shadow trick, you know, when I did the indifferent curve for the drop, for the thief and the switch, because it's an indifferent variable. We can make up the difference loss. Even between 70 and 60, we were still dealing the same amount of damage, right? Even on each hit. Now, the critical value would increase, thus, sustaining a lot better in the long run, but my base value drops my DPS significantly, thus affecting my end results. So once again, guys, I just kind of wanted to go over this, show you guys a few tricks on diminishing returns and how it affects critical values, right? So people always tell you this is the best situation is to go over a certain point in crit. That's not always the case, and it depends what you're trying to accomplish. But most of the time, if you go over, over 60, you're losing, right? Your crits deal shit. All right. If you have any questions or comments, post below. I want to thank everybody for watching, and once again and always, have a nice day.